Hello and welcome everyone to Astrology Talk Forecast for May 2025. Thank you for being on this call. And I'm a Mallory Key, professional astrologer accredited with the American Federation of Astrologers. And I am working with the Placidius House system for tropical astrology. So that's more Western astrology. So thank you for being here. And I also want to thank our staff at Cosmic Connections, and also the my teacher, Mr. Thomas Parsons, and all on the Zoom call. So the purpose of this is to inform and bring awareness and to clarify. And next week's class is a 45-minute class, whereas this is 20 minutes. That offers a time for you to bring your own birth chart, or your birth chart is included in the class. It's $25 from 7 to 7:45 p.m. Central Time on Zoom. So that's where you get to see how these personal transits are happening for you personally. All right, so the without further ado, the outline for this evening for this 20-minute call, or give or take a few, is to review the new moon in Taurus for those, since we are still in April, but this is for the May 2025 forecast. The full moon in Scorpio, the deep water sign, the new moon in Gemini, an air sign, quick thinking. It's about communication and transits. I'm going to include the Saturn and Neptune, of course. This is a big deal. This is a very it hasn't happened for a while, since the 1800s. And so you definitely want to be aware of what Saturn and Neptune are doing. Venus and Neptune, and also the Sun and Neptune. So there's a short Q&A if you're included on the call each last Wednesday of the month. But for this purpose, the recording is just going to be the outline without the Q&A. So, the new moon in Taurus review, if you were on the call last month, we did talk about that new moon in Taurus, and this is at 7 degrees, and it's still, pretty much like still an orb of this influence. It's usually give or take 3 or 4 days, usually three at least. This is at 7 degrees, 46 minutes, and it's April 27th, 2025 at 2:31 p.m. It occurred Central Time, and then 2:19 p.m. for my friends in Nashville. Taurus is an earth sign. It's ruled by Venus. It's about, I want to be secure. I want to have the money so I can enjoy my life. I need to have, things in order. I like to have things in a routine and methodical. Taurans are very dependable, reliable signs, and it's very grounded. Like, you can definitely depend on a Taurus. Now, you also, if you want to get a Taurus off the couch, you feed them. You give them something, or a good evening, a good time, and that's full of good, wonderful, even desserts. So they love the ambiance in a restaurant. They need to be outside and see nature. So they're into the luxuries of life, which is wonderful. So they need to make a lot of money so that they can spend. So this new moon in Taurus is about your security and money and income and what you deem as a priority in your life. So, Venus is also relationships. And in this sign, Taurus, she's more about, I need to feel secure. So looking to see where 7 degrees of Taurus falls in your own birth chart to know the department of life energized by this new moon. And this is time to plant seeds of intention. So if you didn't plant your seeds of intention on this April 27th, make sure you go ahead and do that. Now, let's see. Let's go ahead and do the full moon in Scorpio. So this is going to be in May. The Scorpio is ruled by, Scorpio is ruled by Pluto. It's on May 12th, 2025 at 11:54 a.m. Central Time, 11:42 a.m. for Nashville. And Scorpio is deep water. It's profound. I call it the 007 agent of the zodiac. It's at 22 degrees of Scorpio. So the moon will be at 22 degrees in that water sign of Scorpio. The sun will be at 22 degrees, still hanging out in Taurus. So 22 degrees in numerology is a master number. 11 is I look at in astrology, I call 11 the master number. And, 22 could be your doctorate in a way. It's a master builder. So you're building even more so upon that mastery skill set. Now, 22, 2 is 4, 2 plus 2 is 4. It's about home, but I still just stay with the twos on this. So that's also second house of money. Now, Scorpio is the 007 age in the zodiac. It senses and feels. It's like a psychic, intuitive, and it's a healer. So it wants to heal. It can sense what's going on in the room. It knows who's good character or not. It can usually tell when somebody's lying pretty quick. And if there was a lineup about somebody who had done something, you would ask a Scorpio. They're often put a cap on themselves as children. It's really a misunderstood sign because they feel and know what their parents are thinking and feeling more so than they do themselves. So they're very good people to talk to who have developed themselves to help you through an issue or a problem. So see where that 22 degrees of Scorpio is 12 minutes in your own birth chart to see where that deep water sign, it's about being profound. It's the profound parts of ourselves, but it's about being like, I can be who I am on a deeper level, but I only let those know who I trust. And they might have just a few in their inner circle. They're kind of more introverted. Now, when you have the sun in the opposite sign, this is about, you have to look at that Tauran energy about money. And then also Scorpio is about money, but it's other people's money, whereas Taurus is about your money, your income. So there's a power play on the other side, the shadow side. Even though Scorpio loves money and wants to keep it and knows how to make it, Scorpio is also can be a power trip. So you have to watch the power play with a Scorpio and manipulation on the shadow side, as we all have a shadow side. And the shadow of of Taurus is that it might spend too much. It might not have the funds to be able to enjoy that luxury that it wants and desires and craves. So you have to notice the shadow side of each of that, see where that sun is and moon, and this is time to release so that at the new moon where you set the intentions, the full moon is time to release so that you have enough room for those new things and items to come into play. So that's notice the timing again and see where that is for you personally. I also want to bring out too that the Mars in Leo is at 11 degrees on that day of May 12th. So it's just that's a master skill set at 11. So I just kind of thought that was an interesting on the exact moment that the moon is there. So here we go to the next slide, and I just wanted to have it more clear. The other part of this full moon in Scorpio is that the sun is next to Uranus and the moon is opposing Uranus in applying aspect. It's not that close, but it's getting there. So, the sun and moon rather quickly in our natal chart. So, the sun will be there in a few days, it moves a degree a day, and then the moon moves every, couple hours. It's like moving fast. So notice that on May 12th, we may have sudden changes out of the blue coming, and the moon in mundane astrology is about the people. The sun is the power, as those in leadership or in power center positions. So the Uranian energy is sudden changes out of the blue didn't see coming, and it's in Taurus money, and then the moon is in Scorpio, other people's money. So I have a feeling May 12th might end up being something about money and commodities, other people, investments, and it's all, because that Scorpio energy is other people. If you play the stock market or investments in a real estate market or anything like that, we might see a sudden change because Uranus is electricity out of the blue, didn't see coming your way or coming towards our societal way. So just notice what happens on that day and leading up to the full moon. Now, the new moon is in Gemini. This is the quick thinking, gadgets, technology, writing, communicating. This is texting, phone talking, any kind of even technology with blogging or communicating online. So this is at 6 degrees, and this is over here in the Gemini, the twins. And so the moon, there's a lot of activity around here because Mercury is there, and we'll see that a couple other things I want to point out. But the Gemini is air. If we want to talk, poor Geminis need to talk, and I feel so sad for our education system sometimes because that's when Geminis need to talk it out, communicate it, discuss it, and learn by speaking and writing and engaging in communicative ways. And Aries are where Aries need to move about when they learn. So Gemini, being the twins, they're thinking they don't like to stay stagnant. They like to have variety. They don't want to do one thing over and over again. They need to have it one way one day, the other way. Sometimes they're ambidextrous, or they have the ability to do different kinds of jobs and not just set in one. They cannot, sitting at a desk for Gemini is kind of brutal unless you have other aspects in your chart that really, have that wanting to be methodical in there. So, but they're wonderful, quick, and this is at 10:02 p.m. Central Time at 9:50 p.m. for Nashville. So on May 26th, at the end of the month, that's when this hyped energy of thinking and talking and a lot of change possibly. So the other thing I want to bring out is Mercury's at 2 degrees of Gemini, and it's the sun and moon are going to move fast. So they were already over Mercury. Mercury's the messenger of the gods. It is the ruler of Gemini, and Mercury also rules Virgo, so which is an earth sign. So the quick thinking Mercury in Gemini is even more messages and something communicating. And I want to point out that Mercury is applying toward a trine with Pluto. And it's also in a sextile to Neptune and to Saturn. It's already crossed over at that point. They are still working on moving slower in that sign of Aries. And I want to talk about this too, because Aries with Saturn at the end of the month and Neptune already crossed into Aries, Saturn joins it also. So this is going to be a huge thing right here. So just notice that we might have communication, and it's positive because this is a trine. Trines are positive, slow moving aspects, whereas a sextile is more quick and potent. And there's more of a sense of a kind of a slower wave with that energy with the Mercury and communicating with Pluto, and Pluto speaking to Mercury. So what will we find out from the underworld? What will we find out underneath the surface that might be brought out and spoken about? All right, so now let's see if there's anything to talk about that. All right, so let's go on to the transits in May, and this is including a big aspect of what is about Neptune and Saturn. So here we're going to go. This is astrologically a conjunction of Saturn and Neptune, which will happen exact much later and even next year. They'll get close. They're going to ride a really close, tight orb as they kind of travel together from Pisces to Aries, Aries to Pisces, and then of course we already have Neptune in Aries right now, but it will travel in retrograde motion to the sign of Pisces again. So a conjunction of Saturn and Neptune in Aries is often associated with periods of significant social, societal shifts, including revolutions, civil unrest, and a redefinition of national identities. The last time this occurred was between 1861 and 1875. The world witnessed the American Civil War and other conflicts, along with a period of intense conflicts and collective reimagining of identity. And boy, aren't we seeing that in our own country, in America, what the identity that we've known is now transforming. And there is a astrological speaking to this. I mean, we are in a change, and when Pluto went into Aquarius, we're in a change all over the world. So you have to know that there is change. Now, how we deal with that change and how we want to see and how our perspective is up to us. And so it is about seeing how you're dealing with that change and how am I doing with my thinking? It doesn't mean that we'll have a civil war. It just means that there is something. Maybe we're more evolved now than we were then, and it'll be a different type of energy, is what I prayed. So this just came from AI. I love that because this is something I was looking up, and then AI overview really did culminate it into a nice paragraph. There is also Saturn in Aries can bring about a focus on individual action, leading to a push for freedom and a willingness to fight for what one believes. Saturn is structure. Saturn is about foundation, and it restricts wherever it goes because it wants that good, solid, foundation to stand on. It doesn't like sand and not anything that it can really depend upon. So Saturn is calculating. It knows how to get from A to B to C because it rules the sign of Capricorn. So that's the mountain goat. It knows how to get to the top. And Saturn wants you to be in integrity, responsible, in alignment with yourself. So it's about you. And in Aries, which is me, my I, in the zodiac, Aries is god of war. It's kind of the younger part of the zodiac wheel, if you want to see it that way. It's more the ego part, and the shadow could be like, I don't care about anybody else. I'm going to do what I want to do. But in another part of Aries, which Mars rules Aries, it's about, what do I want? How can I accomplish and get what I want? And go in, what are my desires and wishes, and what is my goal and dream in my life? And so there's a good part. And then the other level of Aries and Mars too, they're both god of war, is how can I help another person get to that point? How can I help another person also remember who they are in their dreams and wishes and desires? Because sometimes it gets, squashed by, your family, your parents, the social pressure and peer pressure to not go outside the line. So, Aries doesn't care. That's a wonderful thing about it. It's a pioneer. It can forge new trails. So there's a wonderful energy here because it's fire, and it's Saturn in fire is like, I'm going to take action. This is our action sign. And I am going to see, what action do I want to take to get my dreams met, and to focus on my individual action. Okay. And feel free. Now, Neptune in Aries is a whole nother thing. Neptune is water. Saturn rules Capricorn, which is, Chronos time, and it's the earthy kind of thing. Neptune is water. It can be a mirage. It's like fog. I don't know. It's like it doesn't have that solid foundation. These are two almost polar opposite planets in the same sign of a fire sign. And Neptune, being water, can squelch fire. But Neptune also is going to take some action about spirituality, creativity. Neptune rules the arts, music, art, theater, drama. It's Hollywood, it's film, it's acting on stage. Excuse me. Yes, I have allergies. So, and I'm working on what that irritation is. But Neptune can manifest into a sense of individual freedom once again, because Aries is about me and what I want. And it's a desire to explore and redefine oneself, and a willingness to take risks. And that's that Aries in there, willingness to take risks, even if those risks involve intense conflict. Now, I look at Neptune being more of a high level spiritual creative sign, and it's a healer. So it rules Pisces. That's a nebulous sign where it doesn't have boundaries for a reason, so that it can be fluid. It can be like, oh, I can think outside the lines, or I can use my imagination to create what I want. And I can just throw buckets of paint on the wall and mess it all up. And that is my mural. That's my piece of artwork. Whereas Saturn would be more calculating, and I'm going to measure it out. I'm going to put precise lines, and everything has a point in it to a reason why I put it on the canvas. But Neptune is a very fluid, no boundary, and so sometimes that does not work for Saturn. And Saturn, Neptune, is just really mind boggles Saturn. So these two coming together on the positive end, instead of that conflict and tension between the two of structure and no structure, how can we work together with Neptune giving, a fog and I can't see clearly, with Saturn giving you, yes, I am. I can see this. This is a reality planet. This is like common sense planet. And how can we use these two to come together? So it is a two polarity time, okay, between these two planets, and then Aries is going to make it even more intensified. All right, so Saturn conjunct Neptune. Here's what it says. The combination of Saturn and Neptune and Aries can lead to a period of intense transformation. And, this is a time also for healing, but it sometimes, you have to open the wound for healing to occur. And it's almost like Saturn is going to jackhammer it so that you can get back in alignment with yourself, and Neptune's going to provide that flowing, healing energy in that space. So it's an intense transformation with individuals and societies alike facing significant challenges and opportunities for growth and reinvention. So please know that this time is not your imagination. It is changing. it is going to change how we see it in our own mind, and how can we get with like-minded people that support our goals and dreams and wishes and desires for the good of all. So it's not about hurting other people. It's about how can I use this energy to transform in the most highest good of all for myself and others. The historical significance of these two, the period when Saturn and Neptune were in Aries, specifically between 1861 and 1875, saw the start of the American Civil War. Now, it doesn't mean that that same kind of thing will occur. It doesn't necessarily mean that at all. It's a time of significant conflict and a re-imaging of the national identity, of national identity. So it's like we're changing and we can fight it. And sometimes out of that chaos, there's something, that chaos has to get there until it just blows up into what we do want. So sometimes out of chaos comes big change to catapult us into a higher frequency or even more loving, kind way. So just know that there is change coming. I can choose to go into, there's another thing I want to mention, that the Christ conscious, Edgar Casey said this beautifully. And I kind of putting it in my own words and my own research on other things too about the Christ consciousness. In the Bible, it's like Jesus, we get the idea Jesus is coming back to save us. And the Christ consciousness is kind of here. Are we going to tap into the Christ consciousness? There may be a tipping point where enough people are on a same wavelength of higher consciousness. And we might actually have that tipping point to go into that space of a little bit higher vibration. And if you're ready, it's always available. I don't think it's something that you're not welcome. I think it's when you feel that you are there, you're always going to evolve, and you can choose to take care of those things that have happened to you from childhood, the trauma, the victim, the hurt, the pain, and grief and sorrow, and then know that that is human conditioning on this planet Earth, school Earth, and that we are gracious. We're with ourselves. We have grace to know and empathy for ourselves and others. So with that love and understanding of ourselves, we can offer that to other people. And that's kind of like that wounded healer of Chiron in the chart. You might see where Chiron landed. Also, the degree point can be an age. What happened at that degree point and in that house of where Chiron falls in your own chart. So that significant conflict is when that Saturn and Neptune are just like two polar opposites coming together in a fire sign. So just notice how I want to work with that. Where do I want to focus? You have a birthright to focus your attention where you want, and where attention goes, energy flows. All right, so individual manifestation of these transit can also affect individuals, potentially leading to a spiritual awakening and a renewed sense of purpose, while also highlighting the importance of individual action and responsibility. So, I get to take action and be responsible. That's that Saturn talking. And then the transit where it's the spiritual awakening is that Neptune. So that Saturn is really giving a more structure for us to go into in a spiritual awakening. And I do feel like that's where we are. And you go where you are evolving. It's not good or bad. It's not somebody's better, higher. It's where your journey is on with you personally on this planet, and with the people that you are involved with. And you may need to lose some friends. I mean, a lot of people are saying that I'm losing a lot of really old, good friends, and maybe time to find like-minded ones that support you and love you and encourage you to find your own purpose and to foster that within you. And so it may be some grief, there may be grief involved within this. All right. So be compassionate to yourself and others as you move through this process. And I always say for the highest good, because I'm not an advocate for anyone to hurt another, and to honor the dignity of every human being. And if someone is hurtful, you have a right to move away. You have a right to say what you need to say, or be silent. There's Brene Brown has done wonderful work, and several others on the silence says more sometimes. You don't have to prove yourself. There's a tendency to, I've got to tell them really what it is. You can stand in your truth and know that you are loved and know that you have the security you need, and it's not based on what other people think. Your silence sometimes says more than you trying to say to tell them who you are. You standing in your purpose and this standing in your ground, that's even more powerful. And it's a constant learning for myself and others. All right, so Neptune. We're going to talk about Neptune a little bit because it ingresses into Aries March 30th. Okay, so right at the end of the March, that's when Neptune, this watery planet from Pisces, where it rules, and it's at home in Pisces, flipped into an air sign. It's like, scorching water. It's like hot water. Or, Aries is fire, and then here comes Neptune, salt water into this fiery, I think of kind of geyser. I think of, volcanic undersea. There may be some of that. Okay. There may be volcanic activity in the ocean. So it will begin its retrograde motion July 4th. So it will start its retrograde back towards Pisces and return October 22nd, 2025. Then it returns to Aries again, January 26th, 2026. Okay. So just know that this is a retrograde, all planets retrograde, not just Mercury. That's one we all know about, but this is a slower moving retrograde motion. And that's just our perspective of as we're going around the sun and how that planet's going. And sometimes it looks like it's going backwards, but it's not really technically going backwards. It's our motion together. Now, Saturn, we're going to talk about that. Saturn is actually a retrograde motion beginning July 12th, and it returns to, July 12th, well, so excuse me, May 24th is when it ingresses into Aries, excuse me. So this is now a time at the end of May where we have that Saturn going into this amazing fire sign. So that's what we were talking about. So just be aware of that energy. I'm sorry, I was just making sure that I have something on here. So retrograde motion for Saturn, as when it's in Aries, actually goes back into Pisces. It starts heading back into Pisces. And let's see. I may need to take a pause here. So I'm going to take a pause for just a moment and we will come back. So I'm picking back up here, and Saturn, we were talking about Saturn, and I had to take a pause for a moment. It ingresses into Aries May 24, 2025, as we said, and then it will retrograde into its motion on July 12th, 2025. So, but the end of the month, we're going to have, we're going to have not full time, but we will have Saturn and Neptune in the sign of Aries. So that's a very kind of a big deal. It will return to Pisces September 1st, 2025, and then it will return back to its place in Aries February 13th, 2026. So we want to know these motions in place with Saturn and Neptune so that you understand how, historically this energy has manifested. So the exact Saturn conjunct Neptune is not till next year, but they ride very close together throughout this time. So Saturn and Neptune are kind of, sort of staying in the same, kind of lane together, but they're not conjunct until February 20th, 2026. Now, Venus conjunct Neptune. Venus is a planet of love, beauty, money, security, relational planet. It's, it wants to be in harmony and balance as well because it rules two signs in astrology. It rules Taurus about the money, and then it rules Libra about relationship and balance and the scales of justice. Neptune, again, is our spiritual planet, creative planet on a higher plane. It's also nebulous because we can't see clearly a lot of times with that right brain or that, fogginess of that Neptune, reminding that we are spiritual beings in a human existence on a 3D plane, but we are also on a higher plane as well. And Neptune always wants to remind us of that. So Venus conjuncts Neptune in Aries. Again, there's so much activity in Aries, y'all. This is a big deal as far as astrologically speaking, to have this much energy in the sign of Aries. It will May 2nd arrive in its conjunction to Neptune. So we have and those two get along pretty well. Venus and Neptune are, they can hang with each other. They kind of care for each other. And, Neptune is talking with Venus about spiritual things and, might be teaching her things about the spirit world and creativity and higher mind. And Venus is talking to Neptune about, security and money and how do I be with my security money on a higher plane and not just in a lower dimension. So it's, we can manifest, Venus and Neptune can manifest a lot because Neptune is our imagination, and our imagination is the thing that brings into the awareness of the universe what you're wanting. It's like our imagination is the smart TV for the universe to see and know what we are wanting to manifest inside. And you always want to do to your highest good of all. And so, do you want money and security in a way that you are able to do and create what you love and what you want to enjoy? And not have it to be such a hardcore working system that sometimes we fall into. Now I'm moving into a higher realm of I can get my security and love and feel that structure of knowing I have what I need on planet Earth, and I have relationships, and the scales of justice is balanced and harmonized. And so now Neptune is bringing her into a different plane. So you can. This is a great time to me. I see these two as a great manifesting time. So May 2nd is when she will be there. She will also sextile to Pluto during this time, and that's also Neptune. So, there are, of course, Neptune's going to retrograde, but Venus will go forward and in a sextile position, talking to Pluto in a very positive, powerful way. Sextiles are 60 degrees apart. They are one of the most powerful positive energies of angles, so in the chart. So now we're going to start the discussion about Sun conjunct Uranus. Now, these are, Sun is our source of life. It's the center of the solar system. It's often our ego associated with that, while the Sun and Moon are opposite in some ways. The Sun is our ego and the Moon is our subconscious, so our feeling planet. But the Sun can, this is our ability to be our true self with the Sun, and it's conjunct Uranus, which is sudden changes out of the blue. Uranus is our rebellious planet for freedom and autonomy. It's also trauma, and it's the planet that is associated with the future as well. So you don't want to say stagnant. It wants to get you out of a rut and move forward into, where you're really supposed to be heading. And also the technology and space travel and air flight. So here's when the Sun conjuncts Uranus, and that's only, it's a day where it will be conjunct, but it moves quickly because the Sun moves a degree a day. So it's not going to hang around too long here, but it's just a moment. May 17th will be the conjunction of the Sun to Uranus. And so that is a Tauran, energy. So that's money, commodities, possessions. It's about our stability as far as getting what we need because it rules the second house. Do we have the food? Do we have the money that we need to buy the food? It can be, our currency. Okay. When it conjuncts Uranus, that is sudden changes out of the blue, and it's the Sun shining a light on something with Uranus. And in a positive light, it's just helping us move forward, getting out of a rut, shining a light on where we are stuck, and shining a light on something about money and the currency of our day in any country or nation. So the Sun and Uranus sextile also to Saturn. So Saturn is over here at 29 degrees of Pisces. So these two are applying towards that Saturn before it retrograde, or actually before it goes into Aries. And this is shining a light on Saturn. Saturn's banks. It's also our stability and structure, societal structures. It's those I call Saturn is our foundation planet, and it will also keep you in alignment and responsible as our integrity. It wants us to be in alignment with ourselves and our true self. So we have the Sun, our true self, shining a light on Saturn in a positive aspect. And then it's applying towards that. And Uranus is also, it's actually leaving. This is a separating aspect with Uranus because Saturn's already moved across 27 degrees and it moves faster than Uranus. So, and we also have the sextile with Sun and Uranus to the North Node and trining the South Node. So this is about our destiny and releasing something from the past. It's a separating, of course, in this aspect, but it still has the energy there. And the Sun will do that as it applies towards its conjunction. It will be at that 25-degree point, around right before May 17th. So there's just something about our destiny as a nation, as a global community. This is where we're moving in the spiritual realm with the nodal axis, with Pisces at the North Node and Virgo at the South Node. Virgo is more the tangible earth sign. It's the I hate to say the word perfection, but it knows how to get to the detail to make something work. And sometimes the devil's in the detail. That's where Virgo knows how to synthesize and process and analyze information to make it work. So Pisces is another realm. Whereas I kind of can look at Virgo as the left brain, Pisces is the right brain with those two. So Pisces is that creative spiritual one and a healer. And then Virgo is our hands-on healer. The nurse, the midwife, the one that's the tangible hands-on to help you heal. And then Pisces is that spiritual energy of healing. So there is some energy with that nodal axis involving with the Sun and Uranus. Okay, so for those of you who want to access Astrology Talk Forecast each month, there is a Q&A at the end. If you participate, you'd have to stay on. I usually try to cut a little bit early, but sometimes at 20 minutes, we have the Q&A after the forecast, after I go through all the slides. And that way you can ask me questions. It's not going to be long, but those of you who are confused about something, have a question about things, we stay away from politics, and we also want to give people a chance to speak if you would like. So thank you for watching. Thank you for being on the Zoom calls. The Astrology Talk Forecast is at the last Wednesday of each month at 7 p.m. to 7:20 with a Q&A after that, unless I can get it within that 20 minutes. And then the Q&A. And then also the first Wednesday of each month from 7 to 7:45 is when you can take what we have looked at in the forecast for the month ahead and apply it to your own birth chart and see how that's showing up for you personally with a professional astrologer. So thank you again. Enjoy and look to having a good May. It may be a little bit more quieter than April, but there's still a lot of intense energy. So, all right. Namaste. Bye-bye.